Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys, trader and technical analyst. We're going to check in on the markets as the bulls are attempting to get a bounce going today. We have the NVDA key pattern to be watching into next week. Bulls still need a little bit of follow through, but I'll let you know what I want to see as far as having the most clarity heading into next week. All right, so broader market first, a little bit more bear downside. It definitely stands out to me that first hourly oversold conditions for SPY and QQQ did not mark the daily higher lows. But the big point going forward into next week is, do we set daily lower highs to shape up daily downtrends? And it's often important to set in advance what you want to see on a chart when you're doing technical analysis in order to say, this would be the most ideal scenario. This is where I would have the most clarity. Because then if that shapes up, then you have high conviction. And if it doesn't shape up, you have less conviction. And maybe that means you skip the trade altogether, you use smaller position sizes. But essentially trying to think of in advance how something's going to play out will help you with your conviction. So looking at the S&P 500, we know a daily high or low is the most likely scenario because there's a lot of space for it to form. But we also know that we've retraced significantly at this point. The pullback is about 60% of the bull move last week, which for me means there is a possibility that if we do bounce from here, which is what I want to see happen for the most clarity, we still need hourly uptrends to confirm. We could say we bounced from the morning, but we must confirm hourly uptrends. We'll use SPY. SPY needs an hourly uptrend into tomorrow for further daily bounce follow through. We've got to break the high of today tomorrow. If that happens, we then say, all right, SPY's daily high or low is set. And then into next week, we watch the bounce retracement size. Let's just assume that we get a little bit of bounce follow through tomorrow. We then can measure what's the bounce retracement to help determine probabilities. And if it is under 50%, then we look for the bears to attempt to confirm a daily downtrend. If we bounce and confirm the daily downtrend, our weekly lower highs will be set and we'll be heading back down towards the low of August. If the bears are unable to confirm a daily downtrend, then we're just going to keep recovering back up to those recent highs, and that would obviously be bullish. So the bounce that we're going to see potentially over the next day or two is going to give us a lot of information. Just like this pullback size gave us information. If we had pulled back to 382 retracement, we'd be expecting continuation and the bulls to maintain full control. As soon as yesterday happened, we said, all right, bears are showing us something, and they're creating the space for the daily lower high to try and shape up as the result of the next bounce. The NASDAQ got 50% retracement at this point, going to QQQ just to remain consistent. Can the bulls confirm the hourly uptrend tomorrow? If we open higher, we still have to confirm the hourly uptrend. If we open lower, we have to break the high of today to confirm the hourly uptrend. If we get that, daily bounce underway, and it's easier for the bulls to head back to this high because we did not retrace as significantly, but it's still on the table as a possibility. Does this daily uptrend turn into a daily downtrend to shape up the weekly lower high? And we're watching for that not only on SPY and QQQ, but a ton of individual names. We're anticipating that a weekly inside bar is very likely, and how this weekly inside bar breaks next week is going to be significant. So that's what we're looking for tomorrow. If we don't get any bounce follow through tomorrow, then I know this is not the most clear setup for me, and I patiently wait until I have that clarity. Checking in on the cannabis space, so consolidation day, but bulls held on pretty well. And as I mentioned, the way I've been trading this is I sold all of my longs on the gap up open. I entered short, and we broke the low of yesterday today with zero follow through. We know bear breaks that lack follow through mean look for a potential bull flag. And this price action threw me for a loop a bit because, I have my short that's very comfortable from yesterday. I even added to it this morning, quickly took profit on what I added in the low 780s, knowing that we could easily see momentum shift. And because the last thing I want to do, that was essentially me averaging up in my position. Because, my break even at that point on my short is 860 something, and I'm adding to it at 806. So now my break even is, 830 something. So was quicker to exit that, but then we got this V-shaped bounce, and we went 10% from the low of the day straight up to the highs. And that caught me off guard as far as the strength of that move. So I quickly bailed on my remaining shorts in the 820s and then said, oh man, this is a bigger bounce than I expected. There are daily bull flags possibly shaping up here. And so the position that I sold yesterday, some of it was a short-term swing. Some of it was my long-term position. And the reason, generally I want to be hands-off on that. But the reason I sold it was because I had very high conviction, because the setup came to me, the point that I just made, the setup came to me exactly as I wanted to see it. Gap up, marking a temporary top into daily consolidation. And so, I then look at this and say, oh man, we're V-shaped bouncing. We're running right up to resistance. I can't not have exposure because, like I've been saying, I feel this is a long-term bottom with the amount of volume we're seeing here. And I want to have a position longer term. And so my mindset was, well, this isn't how I want to rebuy back into this position, but I have to. I have to have some position exposure and essentially treat it, I call it my anti-FOMO position, where, okay, I have some exposure, I can be patient before I do anything else, but I essentially reloaded. Earlier I said I reloaded 6% more shares. I did the math wrong. It was 4%. So same dollar amount, 4% more shares than I had yesterday pre-market. And again, it's not where I wanted to re-add, but the bulls forced my hand a little bit. We did still reject from the high of yesterday by a couple pennies. The bears are doing everything they can to defend. There's a resistance zone, pretty much 850 to 861, and then the top of pre-market, 875, was a resistance zone. And we did defend that, and it looked to me, the magnitude of this bounce with everything going 10% straight up off the low, it looked to me like MSOS, the ETF, was deploying their cash and buying the individual companies, and that was, propelling things higher. But Dana Hearns, who manages those funds, said he wasn't buying. And I guess I'll take his word for it. We'll know soon enough, but that's surprising to me. And so what a bull wants to see is MSOS have a large cash holding into daily consolidation, knowing that some buying can help the daily consolidation remain healthy. So anyways, long story short, I'm back in my long-term position, not how I wanted to be back in, but better, a cheaper average than what I had, which is nice. And if I'm going to add more of a position, I'm going to be patient here and see whether we get further daily consolidation, what it looks like, and everything like that. So essentially, I'm now back to anti-FOMO position covered and can be patient and observe things from here. And as far as the Canadian names, TLRY, daily consolidation underway, again healthy, broke the low of yesterday, no follow through, trying for the daily bull flag. We look at our retracement size, and at this point, it is a 50% retracement, but these names are very volatile, and 50% retracement can lead to a higher high. CGC, daily consolidation, bulls bought that dip. Daily bull flags are on the table. Tomorrow's going to be fairly telling for the sector heading into next week as to whether that is the case or not. Semiconductors. I like the setup on NVDA. So again, same thing for SMH. Daily is in an uptrend. Higher low, higher high, trying for another higher low. There's a lot of space for a daily low or high to potentially be the result of this bounce from here. But what I care about is NVDA. NVDA was a nice bounce today. Gap down open into oversold extremes with a key support, we'll call it 449. And so we bounce 0.5% above that support. And, I was on a YouTube call today, and it was right at the open, and said if I wasn't on this call, I'd be looking long on this gap down NVDA. We had a nice tightening range. It broke bull into the end of the day, into new highs. Look at this 30-minute. Actually, we'll go 15-minute. 15-minute equilibrium. So low, high, couple supports, lower high, higher low, lower high, and then we held support by 16 pennies and broke resistance. I've often said, you get the most volatility at the open generally, but you can find 15-minute equilibriums that develop through the morning that give you midday or afternoon trades. And so this bull break took place at 459, we'll call it, and then there's a percent of upside. And again, a percent isn't something huge, but it's an opportunity. And so those are the patterns you want to look for if you're going to be afternoon trading, in my opinion. Look for tightening ranges to break. So what I want to see for the most ideal setup is NVDA confirm an hourly uptrend into the daily bounce. Then next week we scout a daily lower high because there's tons of space for it, anything under 499. And then we look for a break of this tightening range to give us some direction. And I believe the break of this range is going to give us direction in the broader market as well. Because as I've been saying, retail is putting a lot of weight into NVDA and what it does dictating, sentiment in the market. And SMCI is the same pattern at a different spot on the chart, but low, high, higher, low, lower, high. And this looks like a higher low is trying to form. And we're going to look for a break of this tightening range into next week. And again, watching the direction that it breaks. But I am interested in looking short on NVDA. I hope we bounce 470 plus to look short within the first couple days of next week and position for the potential that we bear break into further monthly consolidation. And again, I wanted that short at just under 500. I stopped out at 497 while I was in the woods. Should have used more wiggle room. It was a break-even stop. Oftentimes, that's a mistake I make where I'll be in a trade, I'll take partial profit, and then I'll set my stop at break-even when I should still take on some risk and just give a bit more wiggle room and use a more clear level. So that was a mistake I made on NVDA while away from the computer. It's not like I would have had a big loss if I put my stop over 500. Should have put my stop at 500.01. If I did, I would have had a real nice week maker on this pullback, but we'll see if I get another opportunity. Tesla. Let's talk about a losing trade before we go. I've talked about a lot of winning trades because I've been trading MSOS and cannabis real well this week. I did have a losing trade today. Meta had a strange dump. The amount of volume on this dump and the magnitude, this screams news. Yet there was no news to be found. It was a lead bull, and then it just completely fell apart. And it dropped like 4% in an hour on no news, 5%. And so then you had your volume climax. Look at the 1 minute. The 1 minute highest volume of the day was the low of the day. And then we bounced from there. And the bounce was a lot more impressive than I thought. I played that bounce and did not hold a runner long enough. But I was trying to short for 15-minute consolidation because it was a 15-minute stair-step bounce. We know a 15-minute lower high is the most likely result here. And so I was watching a potential 2-minute rising wedge. And here's an example of a rising wedge failing. And so I was watching this pattern to break bear into 15-minute consolidation. And I had my entry. Initially, I had a starter here. And I said, all right, if we break 299 with no follow-through, I'm going to enter a second position. And there was my red flag right there because we did follow through on the break of 299. I did enter a second position. And then as soon as the bulls convincingly got over 300, I stopped out and said, nope, that's not the setup that I wanted. And I was wrong. That's not what I thought would happen. And so, just a standard loss, which happens often. But just a bit too early. One move too early, essentially. If I had started scaling into that short on a break of 300 psychological, it would have worked out, very well. But that's the way it goes. It's the wrong day. That's the way it goes. So that was a losing trade. Tesla almost got stopped out of my swing. This further affirms to me that this support zone is the support to be watching in the short term. We did break the low, the double bottom, the low of the last 2 days, 245, but no follow through. And we have a support zone, 242 to 243, that we've now held 1, 2, 3 distinct times. If the Tesla bulls can confirm an hourly uptrend from here, then they will follow through off of this support. But again, close to stopping out, but not yet. A lot of back and forth. Big red, big green, big red, solid green. And who's going to come out on top of this back and forth? Still pretty much a tightening range. 4-hour time frame, nice and clear. Maybe we get a 4-hour tightening range now. Low, lower high, higher low. I would call anything under 258 a lower high. That's entirely possible as well. I like that. I'm going to be on the 4-hour time frame for Tesla into tomorrow. Healthcare got a daily bounce going. It's a weak one. We know a daily lower high is the most likely result of the bounce at this point, and a bear flag is on the table at the moment. The burden is on the bulls to prove to us that that is not a bear flag. We know it's the weakest major sector. Financial sector didn't do anything today. Inside bar, we failed to break the high of yesterday by 1 penny. So uneventful day for the financial sector. KRE is weak. KRE is a lead bear. And you'll remember me recently saying, KRE, weekly lower high, I'm much more confident in that than I am on, say, SMH because of the amount of the initial pullback. So here's the weekly bear flag on the verge of confirming and aligning with the most likely scenario of a monthly lower high. Monthly inside bar breaks bear at 42.81. We're testing that right now, and we're on the verge of setting the monthly lower high and entering monthly consolidation. And then the question into the end of the year is, can the bulls confirm a monthly uptrend, or are we heading back towards the fear low? But one thing is certain, KRE is much weaker than XLF, as we don't have many things testing the low of August right now. If SPY were testing the low of August right now, we'd be a lot lower. But KRE is a lead bear. IWM is also a lead bear. So IWM has a ton of space for a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce, and if we confirm a daily downtrend from here, it's a weekly head and shoulders shaping up. And so if we confirm the daily downtrend, we'll watch for a break of 181.64 to confirm the weekly downtrend, which would confirm a very convincing rejection from this long-term triple top resistance, which rejected the price back in July. And then we would be viewing this as a long, drawn-out, tightening, monthly equilibrium. So we're on the verge of a triple top into monthly consolidation. And so IWM bears are patiently waiting to scout that daily lower high. Next bounce, if they're not already in. AI, big gap down on earnings. Bulls did buy some of that dip, but a lot of work to do. We got to confirm an hourly uptrend if anything's going to shift. We are in a weekly and daily downtrend. And again, the top is in for AI for a while, in my opinion. Said that when we confirmed the weekly downtrend here. PLTR responded to that with weakness as well, but the bulls bought the dip significantly. We flushed real hard first thing and then V-shape bounced. And by the end of the day, the move we made off that low was pretty significant, almost 7%. And still watching the battle here. PLTR is going to be battling for this weekly head and shoulders or not into next week and beyond. Won't have any confidence that that's a weekly head and shoulders unless the NASDAQ starts to show us that bears are shaping up a daily downtrend. Seeing crypto stocks are up after hours. There goes Bitcoin, finally getting over that resistance. All right. Held support again. A lot of work to do still, but at least we're at week plus highs. And so the crypto stocks, coin, bulls bought the dip today. They're up after hours. If the bulls, I love the weekly for coin. Look how clear it is. Stair step up. The stair step breaks bear at 98.71. We then drop. I mean, it's not always this easy, obviously, but if you're trading only weekly stair steps, if you short 98.71 and then you long when the weekly stair step breaks bull at 78.17, it's just really nice and clear. And so we're going to look for a bounce and a weekly lower high. The bulls are trying to prove to us that 86.50 is not the weekly lower high being set yet. But this is going to be a nice weekly equilibrium, likely, to be watching later into potentially October and beyond. Riot broke the lows, but trying to recover. So we flushed down, but back up at the highs. And MARA right now, 1260s. So over the high of yesterday. Trying to head back to the recent resistance to get this weekly bounce convincingly underway. So keeping an eye on these crypto stocks now that Bitcoin bulls finally have proven something to us for the first time in a long time. One more note, forgot to talk about CMPS, cannabis, psychedelic stock. Still battling. We did hit the highest price that we've seen in over a month today, but still struggling at 10 psychological. I need 10 psychological to turn into support. And again, the reason I care about this name is we're watching for this tightening range to try and bottom. Weekly EMA 12, trying to cross bullish with the 26 period for the first time all year. And still a battle going on. It's potentially a rising wedge if we cannot turn $10 into support. So still keeping an eye on things, knowing that, the hype in the cannabis sector is definitely helping people look around at these higher risk, higher reward sectors with law changes potentially in play. But keeping an eye on this name. The dollar is still strong up at the highs. Metals tried to bounce today, and, a weak bounce. Same thing with the metals as the broader market. Does gold confirm a daily downtrend after next bounce to set the weekly lower high? Entirely possible. Silver, still very weak. Still a big time drop. Bulls need to defend 22.22, and they need the dollar to show some sign of weakness, which it certainly has not done this week. Starting to get interested in silver. Watch that hourly EMA 12. Look at these rejections. Reject, 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 reject. Trying to flatten out here. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see where we stand pre-market. I'll do another pre-market live stream tomorrow. Did one today. Thanks for tuning in. Got a Twitter Spaces at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, talking about the cannabis space with a couple of guests. Going to talk fundamentals, priced in, what that means, and technicals and all that good stuff. Oil, getting real tight, second daily inside bar in a row. And double top at 88.07, 88.08. Expecting oil, if we don't break tomorrow, we'll certainly break first thing next week. We know daily consolidation will be due, and we know a daily higher low is the most likely result of that pullback. Just a question of whether the bears can tilt the scales into that daily consolidation from this tightening range. So lots to be watching. I love that NVDA setup. I like the Coin Weekly setup. Write down on the piece of paper next to your computer what you're watching and the time frames. It's very easy for me to, forget about something. But if I got NVDA, daily equilibrium, written down next to my computer, I know to keep an eye on that for the next few days to see if it keeps shaping up in the way that I want to see it. Appreciate you tuning in. Do good things.
I planted huckleberries the first year that I moved in, and they keep appearing all over the garden. And I don't really do anything with them because I take a lot of processing to make them edible, but I figure it's a good end-of-the-world food to have around.